redistricting win for Republicans. The lines of New York's 11th Congressional District remain intact.
Thanks to the United States Supreme Court, the voice of Staten Islanders will not be diminished in the upcoming election.
A sigh of relief for Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, whose road to re-election just got easier. Today, she goes on the record. Plus, Congress weighing in on war powers in Iran. Why Malliotakis believes the vote is premature. Mayor Mamdani announcing the neighborhoods getting the first spots of the city's 2K program.
We want this for our family, but I think also for all the families in New York City, this is a huge, important step.
In an exclusive sit-down, the mayor dives deeper into the impact this has on New York's families and where the program goes from here.
But I think it's great to have an area where people can sit outside when it's nice out.
Plus, a new proposal would keep year-round curbside dining on New York City streets, and New Yorkers have a lot to say about it. Pix On Politics starts right now.
This is Pix On Politics with Dan Manarino.
Okay, everybody, welcome to Pix On Politics. I'm Dan Manarino, and as primary season picks up, Republicans probably have one less race to worry about. The Supreme Court ruling this week the current district map in New York needs to stay in place, overruling the lower courts that called for changes to District 11, which covers Brooklyn and Staten Island. That seat, the only House Republican representation for New York City held by Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis. And I spoke to her earlier this week about the ruling, redistricting overall, and the big vote in the House on war powers in Iran. Nicole Malliotakis goes on the record. And Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis is joining me now. So great to see you once again. Thanks for coming back.
It's good to be with you. Thank you.
So let me start, Congresswoman, with the big political win for you, right? The Supreme Court ruling that the lines of your district will actually remain in place. So tell us about your reaction when you learned of that decision and what it means moving forward.
Look, we had said all along that this lawsuit that was brought by Democrat operatives was meritless and that it was simply an attempt to racially gerrymander our district to tilt the scale. And it's unconstitutional, according to the U.S. Supreme Court, and they reiterated that the other day. There was no reason to touch this district that was independently drawn by a special master. It was then 2 years later ratified by the governor and the state legislature, who are Democrats. The Democrats continue to maintain a double-digit registration advantage, and so this was really an attempt to change the map so they could silence the voters of Staten Island and Brooklyn, and they failed.
You know, in the dissent from one of the justices, Sonia Sotomayor, she stated that the federal court should not interfere in state election matters, and they haven't in the past when it came to decisions like this, but this time they did step in. So does this set a precedent that could cause issues down the line on the flip side?
Well, the Supreme Court also ruled that California and Texas, one red state, one blue state, could move forward with the gerrymandered maps. The difference here was that they were trying to gerrymander this district based on race, and that is unconstitutional. But also, the fact that petitions have gone out, you have candidates who are declared, candidates who have raised money, and they had no map. Constituents didn't know what district they were living in. The Supreme Court had to step in here because it was going to create complete chaos. So not only was it unconstitutional what the Democrats were trying to do here, but in addition, it was going to create serious chaos to the political calendar. And so it was the right thing to preserve these independently drawn maps. And we move forward here and know that we're going to win on merit, we're going to win on policy, and we're going to win on debate. And that's what this is about. Now, if the voters want me to have another term, I appreciate that. But at the end of the day, it's their decision. It is their decision. The people of Staten Island and Southern Brooklyn, not the decision of map makers that are politically connected or high-priced Democrat attorneys in Washington.
You know, should this happen in, say, another area where it would benefit a Republican, would you be against a gerrymander or a redrawing of lines in a non-census year?
Actually, I've introduced legislation with Congressman Mike Lawler to prohibit gerrymandering in the mid-decade. Gerrymandering, or we should say redrawing the maps based on the census, should only be happening every 10 years. And I've said that political gerrymandering is wrong, regardless of which party does it. I was just as critical when Texas did it as when California did it or when New York did it. It doesn't matter to me which party is doing it. It is wrong because you're diluting the voice of the people. In this district in particular, this is the only competitive seat we have in New York City. It was held by a Democrat. In 2020, 2020, I defeated that Democrat because that person was not representing this district. It's as simple as that. Now, if you make the district not competitive, then the voters, really, they can't hold their congressperson accountable. And that's what this is about, preserving the voice of the people of this district so they are the ones who choose it, not the map makers, not the Democrat-connected attorneys and operatives. And that's the way it should be.
You know, Congressman, in full disclosure, to switch gears here, I'm speaking with you on Thursday, the same day that there's a big House vote on war powers resolution that would require the president to seek congressional permission before continuing the war with Iran. So how do you plan to actually go in to vote on this measure, and why are you deciding that way, one way or another?
Yeah, look, the president has 60 days to be able to complete this campaign. We should be taking a vote then at that point. But what I will say here is that what we saw unfold in Iran was absolutely amazing, and the work done by our military men and women needs to be applauded by everyone. The bottom line here is they removed the Ayatollah and the Iranian command, the head of the defense, the head of the so-called judiciary that were backing terrorist organizations, the Houthis, Hamas, Hezbollah, and the people who were responsible for killing Americans, killing our allies, and causing such havoc, not only in the Middle East, but around the world. And so this is a very important initiative to remove those threats, as well as ensure that Iran never gets a nuclear weapon, and that they don't have intercontinental ballistic weapons either. And so I think that this is a worthy mission. We appreciate the men and women who are executing it, and it was done with precision, as we are seeing. What happened over the weekend was done with precision, as it was over the summer when they took out that nuclear facility, and also when they took out Soleimani during President Trump's first term.
But Congressman, on the resolution, right, on the vote today that would require the president to seek congressional permission, how are you going to vote?
Well, I'm voting no because he has 60 days. This resolution should be coming up after that 60-day period is up.
Okay. Thank you for that. And with this, 6 U.S. service members have lost their lives with the situation. The president has said that there is really no end in sight. So I'm listening to you carefully say how well it was executed, but is this a war that you believe the U.S. should be involved in?
Well, I believe this is a limited campaign. It should be a limited campaign. And we'll have to see how it unfolds. Right now, they are ahead of schedule in meeting all their targets. And we are hopeful that this can be done in a timely manner without having boots on the ground and without this being a long-term conflict. And so I think that the plan is being executed as it should be, and we're going to keep monitoring the situation and continue to be briefed by the administration every step of the way.
Yeah, I mean, it just seems like the timeline keeps shifting on what the end site is. I know you're saying it should be limited.
Well, they're ahead of schedule, so it's right now they've done everything that they've wanted to do ahead of schedule, and it's only been a few days.
Yeah, the president, just in full disclosure, right as we were about to talk, Axios ended a conversation with the president where he said that he would like to have a hand in who the next leader of Iran is. Should that be something the president should be involved in?
Look, I think it's up to the people of Iran to choose who their next leader is. Obviously, we don't want somebody who's going to be adversarial or to continue to fund terrorism. So we want this to be a real election where they can choose someone that they want that will preserve their freedoms and preserve democracy in that country. That's what we want. We don't want another horrific regime that oppresses its people. But at the end of the day, it is up to the Iranian people to make that determination.
Yeah.
And that's the third piece of this, but really the important piece of why the United States got involved was because Iran was steadfast on building a nuclear weapon, which would been catastrophic. And secondly, they were funding terrorists who have killed Americans for decades. And we had to stop that. I think those were the two main initiatives, but certainly seeing the Iranian people be able to have a free and fair election and elect their leader is something that we would also be happy and should be in a perfect situation, which we're hoping this is executed properly. They will be able to do that. So
just so I'm clear, do you disagree that the president said he should have a say, just like he did in Venezuela?
Well, I don't think that any of us should have a say.
Yeah.
I think that this is, at the end of the day, it's up to the Iranian people, just like it's up to American citizens to elect our leader. Does he have, will we have a preference? Of course, and I laid that out, what our preference would be. But at the end of the day, it's really up to the Iranian people.
You know, Congresswoman, all of this, I spoke to a lot of New Yorkers who are simply on edge, and I'm sure you can understand why, right? Because New York is always considered a target in a situation like this. The mayor, just this week, I sat down with him. He told me that he's constant communication with the police commissioner and that there haven't been any threats to New York. You're in some of these important high-level meetings. Are you hearing about any threats to New York? Can you assure the public they're safe?
Well, look, I think, first of all, there's always threats to New York if you talk to the NYPD commissioner. The thing is what's real, what's not real, and I think that our job as Congress is to ensure that the NYPD receives the counterterrorism funding it needed. Earlier this year, I fought with the Department of Homeland Security to ensure that they got the money that they needed to protect New York City. And in addition to that, making sure we pass the Homeland Security funding bill. I mean, the fact that Hakeem Jeffries and Chuck Schumer, who are from New York and understand that the department was created after September 11, 2001 for counterterrorism, the fact that they're not, and they're actually urging their membership to vote against the Homeland Security funding bill this week is an atrocity.
Okay.
Cybersecurity, counterterrorism, our Coast Guard, border protection, all of that is funded under the Department of Homeland Security, and we need to make sure they have the resources that they need, because that does put us at risk if we're not fully functioning.
Okay, I'm up against the clock, but I appreciate your time during a very busy week. Congresswoman Nicole Malliotakis, thanks for coming back.
Thank you for having me.
Okay, and by the way, that Thursday vote on the War Powers resolution failed in the House. The vote mostly along party lines, yet 4 Democrats voted down the measure. 2 Republicans voted in favor. And still ahead, everyone, Mayor Zoran Mamdani taking the first steps to implement his plan for universal child care here in New York City. The mayor sitting down with me one-on-one, revealing which neighborhoods the plan will first go into effect this fall. When Pix On Politics is back in just 2 minutes.
You're watching Pix On Politics with Dan Manarino.
Welcome back to Pix On Politics, everybody. So another very busy week here, and so here are the big political headlines of the week, just in case you missed some of them. President Donald Trump firing Kristi Noem as Secretary of Homeland Security, making her the first cabinet chief to depart in Trump's second term. Noem's removal comes after a series of controversies and 2 days of contentious hearings on Capitol Hill. The president naming Senator Mark Wayne Mullen as the interim DHS secretary. He has to go through a vote now. Congestion pricing surviving another legal challenge. A federal judge ruling the Trump administration cannot block that program. The MTA and Governor Hochul calling it a win for commuters and transit funding, but new appeals and cases could be filed in this seemingly never-ending saga. And 24 states, led by New York Attorney General Tish James, banding together, filing a lawsuit now to stop President Trump's latest global tariffs. The president imposing those tariffs after the Supreme Court struck down his previous tariffs.
Last thing New Yorkers need is another round of unlawful tariffs that make life even more expensive.
Donald Trump does not have the constitutional authority to tax the American people on his own. Congress holds that power.
The 24 states involved in this legal challenge are mostly Democratic ones. The plaintiffs say they would love the attorney generals from Republican states to join them, especially since their states are hurt the most when they don't join. And now to a Pix 11 exclusive. New York City announcing the first step in making free 2K care a reality. 2,000 seats coming online in the fall in select neighborhoods. So which ones? Well, Mayor Zoran Mamdani sat down with me to discuss this historic first step and what comes next. Mr. Mayor, great to have you. Thanks for sitting down with me. Let's talk about unveiling of the locations, the first 2,000 seats for the 2K program. This is a big deal, right? So let me go through where you decided to unveil these seats and why you chose those locations.
Absolutely. So we're starting with 4 communities across New York City. That begins with Washington Heights and Inwood, then it goes to Fordham and Kingsbridge, then we're speaking about Ozone Park and the Rockaways, and then East Brooklyn, and that's a reference to Brownsville, Ocean Hill, and Canarsie. And these are going to be the first seats in what will be Universal 2K. This is a program for 2-year-olds across our city that will take what would have been more than a $20,000 expense for working families and deliver that same service for free, advancing our affordability agenda and having a transformative effect for families for decades to come.
2,000 seats, within these 4 communities, right? How are you going to prioritize families who are within that 2,000?
So everyone who lives within these communities will be eligible to apply so long as their child is turning 2 this year. And that means regardless of income, occupation, immigration status, everyone can apply. And the application process is going to be sometime in the early summer. We just wanted to let families know as soon as we could, these are the neighborhoods we'll be starting with. And then 12,000 seats next year, a seat for every 2-year-old by the end of 4 years.
So music to their ears, certainly, right? But if you don't get the seat this year and you're in that community, when do you anticipate coming online for those folks as well?
Well, that's part of the ramp up that we're seeing of 2,000 this year, 12,000 next year. And then the vision that we are delivering is universal. And the importance of universal is that we know childcare is an issue for every New Yorker across the city. After housing, it's the #1 reason working families are leaving. You know, $20,000 is considered a good deal in this city for childcare, which is ridiculous. And so when we look at the most expensive city in America and we ask ourselves, what can we do to make it easier to raise a family here? This is right there at the heart of it.
Walk me through this, because are families guaranteed a spot within the community they live? You know, this big thing I hear from parents often is, great, they do this, and then I have to still travel on a bus to get to where I need to go. Are they guaranteed a spot within their community?
So with these 2,000 seats, these are seats that will be offered within these communities. The incredible part of the $1.2 billion support that the governor has given for this program is that it will be not only delivering universal 2K, but also fixing the program for 3-year-olds. More than $100 million allocated for just that, to speak to what parents' concerns have been, so that the city can actually meet the demand of parents and of children.
And how do you I'm figuring you have a transitional process, right? You get these seats online, the 2K seats, and then you're going to transition those folks to 3K and pre-K. How do you kind of make sure there's an easy transition within the same community so you don't leave one unit and you got to travel somewhere else for the next?
Well, I think this is the part of why we want to start with fixing the pre-K and 3K, and then delivering 2K, so that once you get in, you can just continue within this system. And so families then are not anguished by how will they find money in their pockets for an expense that could push them out of the city.
The New York Post is reporting today that their city never opened 25 planned preschools. That's dating pre your administration, right? But it certainly falls into you now. So if there's a holdup on opening some of these, how can you be so confident you'll open new ones?
So what I can tell you is that these 2,000 seats are in partnership with existing childcare providers. A big part of also how we chose these communities was finding childcare providers that were able to ramp up so quickly. Because as Senator Elizabeth Warren says, childcare is infrastructure. You can't snap your fingers and everyone's ready. You have to build it so that it's durable. And that's a big part of this. The other thing is, we found with the prior administration, there were childcare centers that were ready to be opened, and for some reason were languishing for months. Just a few weeks ago, I opened one on the Upper East Side, which had been open, ready to go for months, but had simply been stuck closed. We're not going to accept that any longer.
Can you walk me through the budget? The first year of this program, the 2,000 seats, $73 million. The state says they're going to cover those costs, right? But eventually the state's going to step away from it. You're talking about a budget deficit that you're trying to close, find efficiencies. How are you able to fund this long term?
So we are incredibly excited by the state's partnership to fund this for 2 years. And frankly, we're encouraged by the commitment to have this be a part of a long-standing program, because we want this to be successful for years to come. And we know that success will be dependent also upon recurring long-standing revenues. And we're excited to continue to build that partnership to deliver exactly that.
That's, I always ask you this. That's talking about taxes,
yes.
Right? So if that's the fund the education
I
program.
think the core of it is long-standing support for this program. The governor was able to secure $1.2 billion without increasing revenues for this program specifically, and we're excited at what we can look like to build with her, because it's not just a 1-year or a 2-year program. We want this to be a program that changes lives for years to come.
Okay, Mr. Mayor, I have a 3-year-old. I would have loved this when she was a 2-year-old. So I appreciate this for the new parents out there, okay? Very good.
Thank you.
And our thanks to the mayor for sitting down with us there. Another policy change the mayor is pushing for: a return to year-round outdoor dining, right? Big topic here. We're going to hear from New Yorkers about the possibility of those outdoor dining structures being left up the entire year. What are your thoughts?
You're watching Pix on Politics with Dan Manarino.
While the last few weeks have made it hard to believe, warmer temperatures, yes, they are on the way, okay? Don't forget, you got to set your clocks forward this weekend, too. And that means outdoor dining will soon be able to return at restaurants across the city. Meanwhile, the City Council holding a hearing this week over whether or not city laws should change to allow for outdoor dining structures to stay up all year long. What are your thoughts? Our Angela Bavaro took to the streets to hear from you on this big issue.
So the city council looking to expand outdoor dining year-round. Right now, those setups on the streets can only be up during certain months of the year. They want to make that year-round. How you think that's a good idea or not?
I think it's a wonderful idea because people need to touch some grass, even if it's not grass. You know, just be outside and just enjoy the air.
On the other side of this, people have raised concerns with things like parking, noise, maybe rats around. Do you think that could be a concern? Have you seen that?
That's a very valid concern. I'm not gonna lie, yeah, the rats, just cover your food, you'll be fine.
It's not safe for the people because they take over the whole space, and then the bikers, the school students, it's not safe for the community.
Anything is good to raise revenue for the city.
And how about raising revenue for these restaurants? They say it helps businesses. Can you see that, having those setups, those additional seats?
Yeah, but they keep the streets clean. If not, they pay a fine, and that raises revenue for the city. There's a lot of restaurants and stores out here. They throw the garbage right down the street and, $250 fine and get them because the streets are dirty.
I can understand how it could cause some traffic jams and everything, but I think it does bring a community together.
Thank you to Angelo. Thank you to you for sounding off. And of course, we expect more developments in outdoor dining in the next couple weeks as the weather gets warmer. If you're watching this on Friday, set your clocks ahead Sunday morning. If you're watching this Sunday morning, you already lost the hour of sleep. All right, with that, everybody, we'll be right back. Coming up next week, everybody, Tuesday, New Jersey Governor Mikey Sherrill set to release her first budget as governor. That is a big one, okay? And then the third rental ripoff hearing happening on Wednesday in the Bronx. Now, a lot of you have been sounding off on the mayor's rental ripoff hearings. We're following each and every single one of them on Pix11.com as well. And don't forget, you can now follow us on Instagram. Give us a follow, Pix on Politics. We post a lot of clips, and we want to hear from you on what you want covered in your specific neighborhoods. You can follow us there, and you can watch Pix on Politics daily on our streaming channel, Pix11 Plus, every day at 1 p.m. Thank you for watching another episode of Pix on Politics, everybody. I'm Dan Manarino. Hopefully, you're adjusting to that hour loss of sleep. Enjoy the rest of your day.